Hello everyone, my name is Jake Turner. For 20 years I thought I was living the dream, married to the love of my life, Emily. We had 2 wonderful kids, a beautiful home, and a stable job that paid the bills. But as I quickly learned, sometimes life has a way of tearing down that dream in a single moment. Today I'm here to share my story, a story of betrayal, heartbreak, and the quest for closure. It was a Tuesday afternoon, an ordinary day for the most part. I had just finished up a project meeting when I received a call from Lily's school. My youngest daughter, who was only 6, had fallen during recess and hurt her leg. Panic set in as I heard her crying in the background. "Please, can you come?" the principal said urgently. Without hesitation, I jumped into my car and rushed to the school, sirens blaring. Lily was sitting in the nurse's office when I arrived. She was holding an ice pack to her leg, tears streaming down her cheeks. My heart broke a little more with each sniffle. "Daddy!" she exclaimed when she saw me, and I scooped her up, kissing her forehead. I left her giggling as I reassured her that everything would be okay. The nurse informed me that Lily would need stitches, so I took her to the emergency room. I attempted to contact Emily the whole way, but every call went to voicemail. I left her a message begging her to call me back, but I wasn't sure if she was at work or just ignoring me. While waiting for Lily to get treated, I checked the location app on Emily's phone. She often misplaced it, and this time it showed her at a hotel about 10 miles from the hospital. Confusion set in. What was she doing at a hotel in the middle of the day? I pushed the thought aside, trying to reason with myself. Maybe she was meeting a client or attending a conference. After Lily's stitches, I helped her into the car and decided to drive to the hotel. I needed to know for myself. As I pulled into the parking lot, my stomach churned. There I saw Emily laughing and smiling with a man I recognized as Arthur, her boss. I felt sick to my stomach. My heart raced as I watched them walk arm in arm, his hand resting on her lower back, completely at ease. They looked so happy. I wanted to believe it was all innocent, but deep down I felt something shifting. Then I watched in horror as they leaned in and shared a kiss. My wife was kissing another man. The woman I had devoted my life to. The betrayal felt like a knife twisting in my gut. I parked the car and took out my phone, my hands trembling as I snapped pictures of them together. I zoomed in, adjusting the focus to capture every detail. I had to document this. I felt like I was in some twisted reality show watching my life fall apart right in front of me. But then it got worse. Arthur slipped his hand beneath Emily's skirt, lifting it enough for me to see the lace tops of her stockings. I felt bile rise in my throat. I had begged Emily to wear stockings for our date nights, but she never wore them in public. And then she pulled out a pair of sky blue lace panties, my anniversary gift to her. She smiled and handed them to him like it was the most normal thing in the world. Everything in me screamed to confront her right then, but I couldn't. I needed proof. I needed to collect everything I could to protect myself and the kids. I stayed parked, watching them until they got into her car and drove away. I barely registered the screech of tires as she almost collided with another vehicle while leaving the parking lot. Then my phone rang. It was Emily. "Jake," she said, her voice panicked. "What happened? Where are you?" "I'm at the hospital. Lily's fine. Where are you?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. "I'm at the office. I'm on my way now. Drive carefully," she said, and I hung up, unable to process the words coming from her mouth. She didn't even know I had just seen her with another man. I left the hotel parking lot, my heart racing. I was furious, heartbroken, and nauseated all at once. I had to pull myself together for the kids, but as I drove home, the anger swelled inside me. I didn't want to wait for her to come back. I wanted to confront her right away, but I knew I had to be calm. When I got home, I found Lily asleep on the couch. I tucked her in, kissed her forehead, and sat in the living room waiting for Emily to return. The minutes felt like hours. I glanced at the clock repeatedly, trying to calm the storm inside me. When Emily finally walked in, she looked relaxed, as if nothing was wrong. "Hey honey, how was Lily?" she asked cheerfully, but I could feel my blood boil. I took a deep breath. "Where were you?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She shrugged. "At the office, I told you." But there was a tremor in her voice that made me suspicious. "Is that why you were with Arthur at the Holiday Inn?" I shot back, unable to hold back my anger any longer. "What?" she exclaimed, eyes widening in disbelief. "Jake, what are you talking about?" "Don't play games with me, Emily. I saw you. I saw everything." The shock on her face was almost satisfying, but I couldn't revel in it. I wanted answers. "Tell me the truth. How long has this been going on?" She looked away, and I could see the gears turning in her mind. It's not what you think," she stammered, but I wasn't buying it. "Then what is it? How long?" I pressed, my heart pounding in my chest. "About 6 years," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. 6 years? My mind raced as I tried to piece together how I could have been so blind for so long. "How could you do this to me, to our family?" I shouted, the anger boiling over. "We have 2 kids, Emily. You've been lying to me for years." She started to cry, tears streaming down her face. "I didn't mean for it to happen, it just did." "It just happened," I repeated incredulously. "You don't just accidentally have an affair for 6 years. That's a choice you made every single day." She opened her mouth to respond, but I cut her off. "You made your choice, Emily. You chose him over us." "Jake, please." "Please what?" I snapped. "You need to pack your things. I can't do this anymore. I won't live in a house filled with lies." The silence hung in the air as she stared at me, disbelief written all over her face. I turned away, my heart heavy as I walked to the kids' rooms. I needed to get a grip. I needed to be strong for them. After what felt like an eternity, Emily finally began to pack. I could hear her sniffling as she moved around the house, gathering her belongings. It was gut-wrenching, watching her, knowing that this was the end of our life together. When she finished, she turned to me, eyes red and puffy. "I'm sorry, Jake, I really am." But her words felt hollow. "I don't want to hear it," I replied coldly. "Just go. Please." She left that night, and I was left with the echo of our shattered dreams. I sat down on the couch, staring blankly at the wall, trying to process everything that had just happened. My heart ached for my kids, who would never understand why their mother left. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of emotions. I contacted a lawyer and began the process of filing for divorce. It wasn't easy, and every day felt like a battle. I had to keep it together for the kids, even when every part of me wanted to crumble. Finally, after months of legal wrangling, we set a date for the hearing. I didn't want to go, but I knew I had to face her one last time. I needed closure. When the day arrived, I walked into the courtroom with my head held high. I was ready to put this chapter behind me. Emily walked in a few minutes later, her eyes darting around the room before settling on me. The tension in the air was thick, and I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. The judge entered, and the proceedings began. It was surreal watching the woman I had once loved argue about the division of our life together. I felt a mixture of anger and sadness wash over me as I listened to the words being spoken. "Your Honor," Emily's lawyer began, "we believe that my client is entitled to a fair settlement." But I wasn't about to back down. I had evidence, pictures, recordings, everything I needed to prove the truth. I stood up and cleared my throat. "Your Honor, if I may," I said, my voice steady. The judge nodded, and I took a deep breath. I started to present my evidence, detailing the affair, the lies, the betrayal. I could see the look of shock on Emily's face as I laid everything bare for the court. Her eyes widened, and I could tell she hadn't anticipated this. I continued, detailing the nights she claimed to be working late and the times I had tried to contact her, only to be met with silence. "I have evidence of her affair with her boss," I stated firmly, holding up the photos I had taken outside the hotel. "This is not just an accusation. It's the reality of the situation we are in." The judge took the photos and examined them closely. The room fell silent, the weight of my words hanging heavy in the air. I could see Emily shifting uncomfortably in her seat, her confidence fading as the truth unfolded. "And this," I continued, pulling out the voice recordings, "is her talking with him, expressing feelings that should have been reserved for our marriage." I played the recording for everyone in the courtroom. I watched as the color drained from Emily's face. I had never seen her look so vulnerable. The judge looked at Emily. "Is this true?" Her facade crumbled as she realized there was no escaping the truth. I didn't mean for it to happen like this, she stammered, her voice shaky. Didn't mean for what to happen? I interjected, my voice rising. You didn't mean to betray our family? You didn't mean to break the trust we built over 2 decades? The judge cleared his throat, trying to regain control of the courtroom. Let's stay focused, please. He looked at me. Continue, Mr. Turner. I could feel the energy shift in the room as I laid out the final pieces of my evidence, the DNA test results that confirmed the children were not biologically mine. I had these tests done. The kids, they aren't mine. My voice broke slightly, the weight of that admission hitting me hard. I loved them like they were my own, and now I find out they're not. Gasps erupted from the gallery, and I could see Emily's hands trembling in her lap. The judge raised an eyebrow, clearly taken aback by the severity of the situation. How do you know this? He asked. I handed over the results, feeling a mix of anger and sadness. These were done under legal supervision. I didn't want to believe it, but I had to know. I couldn't live in a lie anymore. Emily looked defeated, tears streaming down her face. Jake, please, she said, her voice cracking. I never meant for it to come to this. I thought I could make it all work. I thought you wouldn't find out. The judge regarded her sternly. You realize the implications of your actions, don't you? I know, she whispered, her voice barely audible. The judge turned to me. What are you asking for, Mr. Turner? I want full custody of the children, I said, feeling my resolve strengthen. They deserve stability, and they deserve to know the truth. I want no contact with her, at least until they're old enough to understand what happened. Emily shot up from her seat, desperation in her eyes. You can't do this. They need me. I'm their mother. They need someone who is going to be honest with them, I shot back. You've shown them nothing but lies and deception. I can't let you hurt them anymore. The judge looked between us, weighing the gravity of the situation. After a moment of silence, he said, I will grant you full custody. However, I recommend counseling for the children, and I suggest you consider the same, Mrs. Turner. Emily slumped back in her seat, defeated. The court session concluded, and I felt a mix of triumph and sorrow. I had fought for my family, but it felt like I had lost so much in the process. After the hearing, I left the courtroom and took a moment to breathe. The weight of the day pressed heavily on my shoulders, but I knew I had made the right choice. I was ready to start over, even if it meant facing a difficult road ahead. Over the next few months, life was challenging. I moved into a new place, just a small apartment, but it felt like a fresh start. I wanted to provide my kids with the stability they needed after everything they had been through. I enrolled them in counseling, and I started attending sessions myself. Emily tried to reach out a few times, but I ignored her calls. I couldn't allow myself to slip back into the cycle of manipulation and deceit. My focus was on my children. I wanted them to feel safe and loved. One day, as I was picking Lily up from school, I saw her older sister Marissa waiting by the gate. She was 16 and had always been protective of her younger sister. I could see the worry etched on her face. Dad, can we talk? She asked as I approached. Sure, sweetheart. What's on your mind? I replied, ruffling Lily's hair. About Mom. I don't understand why she did it. Why she chose him over us, Marissa said, her voice trembling. I knelt down to her level, looking her in the eyes. Honey, I wish I had all the answers. Sometimes people make choices that hurt the ones they love. But you have to remember that it's not your fault. You're not responsible for her actions. But it feels like we lost everything, she whispered. I pulled her into a hug. I know it feels that way, but we still have each other. We can rebuild. I promise I'll do everything I can to make this right for you and Lily. Marissa sniffled, wiping away tears. I just miss how things used to be. I do too, I admitted, my heart aching for her, but we'll find a new way forward, together. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, we began to settle into our new routine. I took the kids on weekend trips, creating new memories to replace the ones that had been tainted by Emily's betrayal. I wanted to show them that life could still be beautiful, even in the wake of heartbreak. Then one day I received a message from Emily asking to meet. My heart raced at the thought. I hadn't seen her since the divorce, and part of me dreaded the idea of facing her again. But I knew I had to do it. For closure, if nothing else. We agreed to meet at a local cafe. As I walked in, I spotted her sitting at a table by the window. She looked different, haggard, worn down by the weight of her choices. I approached cautiously, unsure of what to say. "Jake," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "Thank you for meeting me." I nodded, unsure of how to respond. "I know I hurt you. Hurt our family. I'm so sorry for everything," she said, tears pooling in her eyes. "I appreciate that you're trying to take responsibility," I replied, keeping my tone neutral. "But the damage is done, Emily. I don't know if I can ever forgive you." She nodded, understanding the weight of her actions. "I've been seeing a therapist, trying to figure things out." I realized how much I took for granted. "Good for you," I said, trying to maintain my composure. "But that doesn't change what happened. You made your choice." "I know, and I regret it every day," she said, her voice trembling. "I miss the kids. I miss you. Emily, it's going to take a long time for them to forgive you if they ever do," I said firmly. "You need to respect their feelings. They're hurting, and they deserve to heal without your influence." She looked down, shame washing over her. "I know, I just hope that someday they'll understand." "I hope so too," I said. "But it starts with you proving that you're willing to change. It's going to take time." We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of our history hanging heavy between us. "I wish things were different," she finally said. "Me too," I admitted. "But we have to move forward. You have to find your path, and I have to find mine." As I left the cafe, I felt a strange sense of closure. I had confronted my past, and while it wasn't easy, it was a step in the right direction. My focus now was on my children and building a new life, one filled with love, trust, and happiness. Time passed, and while the scars of betrayal would always remain, I learned to navigate the complexities of my new life. I grew closer to my kids, and we started to create a family dynamic that felt real and authentic. One afternoon, while sitting on the couch, watching a movie together, I realized how far we had come. My heart swelled with gratitude for the opportunity to rebuild our lives. I had gone from heartbreak to healing, from betrayal to trust. And though the journey was far from over, I was finally beginning to see the light at the end of the tunnel. So here I am, sharing my story with you all. Remember, life can throw unexpected curveballs your way, but you have the strength to rise above them. And no matter what happens, never forget the power of love and the importance of trust. It can take time to heal, but with patience and perseverance you can find your way back to happiness. Thank you for listening.